Robots are coming, and so is a jobs revolution.
Estimates nearly 42% of jobs are at a high risk of being affected by automation in the next decade or two.
We're going to see more and more things that look like science fiction and fewer things that look like jobs.
Welcome to part 3 of our special series, Automate This. We are looking at the future of work in an artificially intelligent world. Machine learning is already transforming workplaces around the globe, and the rate of change is astounding, even to the people who built the technology.
The advances in the last even 5 years have been startling.
Last week, we added pharmacists and open-heart surgeons to the list of occupations that experts believe could one day be overtaken by machines.
Introducing automation and robots to the pharmacy industry is the only way we can get as close to making zero errors as possible.
Up to 7.5 million Canadians could lose their jobs to automation in the next decade alone. And according to Michael Osborne, there are more compromises to come.
Even if only some of the tasks within a job are automatable, the skills required to complete that job may change completely.
If robots take our jobs, we'll still be able to make art, or at least binge watch Netflix. But even Hollywood isn't immune to the changes that are coming. This week, we're asking how AI could transform the world of entertainment, from pop music to blockbuster films.
There's not a lot of light because we do a lot of video projection. That's why it's called the black box.
That's Philippe Pasquier, a professor at Simon Fraser University who specializes in what he calls computational creativity. He's showing us around the black box, a computer lab where he's teaching machines to make art and compose music.
So these are real musicians. They're not robots. But what's happening is that they're playing from a score that was not written by a human, but was written by a computer.
Philippe's algorithm reads musical scores and uses the patterns it finds to imitate real composers.
We made experiments to try to answer the question, can people make the difference between an original piece from, let's say, Chopin or Brahms, and a piece generated by a machine? And then we find that people can't really make the difference.
You can test your ability to distinguish between authentic Chopin and a computer's best imitation at cbc.ca/day6. But Philippe's machines don't just write music.
The main thing people do with computer is organize pictures, prepare video montage, and play video games. And so that's really what we try to do in the lab, is to empower users to create better, create faster, and eventually create different things that they would create without those technologies.
Philippe sees his programs as creative assistants that enhance artists' toolkits rather than replace them. And he sees no reason to view them as a threat.
Provided I have my cell phone, there's a number of things that I don't even bother memorizing anymore. So I've been offloading some of my cognition to this machine. I see no reason why we wouldn't do the same thing for some creative tasks.
The list of artistic tasks that could be offloaded to computers is growing. Machines can already write haikus, design computer animations, even build CGI movie stars. And according to Nick Bilton, that's just the beginning. Nick is a senior correspondent for Vanity Fair, and he says AI is poised to have a huge impact on the entertainment industry, with consequences that reach far beyond Hollywood. Nick Bilton, good morning. Welcome to Day 6.
Thanks for having me on.
No one is questioning the potential for disruption in sectors like manufacturing or retail, but there hasn't been a lot of talk about how AI could affect the entertainment industry. Do you think that people who work in the creative sector are prepared for the changes that you say are coming?
No, not in the slightest. I don't think people in any sectors are prepared for the changes that are coming. I think people kind of tend to look the other way. And from the reporting and the research that I've been doing for more than a decade, I think that they should be actually looking directly into the eye of what's coming.
Because it's going to be big. How far-reaching do you think that the impact of artificial intelligence could be in the entertainment industry?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to touch everything, from the actors, the musicians, the singers, producers. When you think about a movie or a musical number or something like that, the number of people involved can sometimes be in the hundreds. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the future, the number of people involved could be in the double digits rather than in the triple digits.
We just heard Canadian researcher Philippe Pasquier describing some of the AI tools that he's developing for musicians. If we look at the music industry, what do you think the major disruptions there will be?
Well, maybe you don't necessarily need actual musicians. You could start a band with artificial intelligent versions of them. And, you could imagine doing what we call A/B testing. So you create different versions of a song, and you can imagine that you create 1,000 different versions of a song that you have written with some sort of artificial intelligence that's helped you do it, and you put it out there to see which one people like the most. Things like that.
So it's kind of like a focus grouping, except for it's a giant focus group that will determine which one is going to be perhaps the most popular.
Correct. And you're starting to see that happen a little bit here and there with the way that they do title testing and things like that with songs and movies. But you're really going to start to see it happen with the actual creative content.
But there are skeptics out there who say that when it comes to the actual creative tasks, AI probably will have a limited impact. And one of those is John Seabrook of The New Yorker. He's the author of The Song Machine. Here's what he said when we asked whether he thinks AI will disrupt the music industry.
AI is obviously going to change the way we experience music, the way we discover music. It already is. The one area in which I think that machines will not automate is the actual writing of hits. That's kind of what being an artist is really, ultimately, is taking off in some direction that is not the one that the data is telling you necessarily to take, That's what artists do, and I don't know if that is what an AI could ever do.
What do you make of John Seabrook's assertion, Nick Bilton, that there's something unpredictable and maybe something human about the art of pop hit making that might not be replicated by a machine?
Well, I mean, in many respects, pop hit making today is formed by machines, and the fact that artists like Lana Del Rey and things like that they're manufactured. They're not these really creative people that come up with this form of music. They're a bunch of marketing people that come up with the concept and create someone like her, and that happens in the music industry every day. And I think that if you give them an opportunity to use computers and algorithms to help them do that, you can be sure they're going to. I mean, for example, and just to segue very briefly to the film industry, imagine that you could come home, and you got to think about it not from the creative standpoint, but from a consumer standpoint. So imagine you come home and you've had a long day at work and you say, I want to watch a comedy that's 45 minutes long because I have to be up early for a meeting, and I want it to be based in New York and have 2 female lead actors.
Right.
Those are the things that you will be able to do.
But do you think it will be any good? Will it be watchable?
I think it will. I mean, look, I think today you probably don't realize this, but if you pick up a newspaper, there are articles that are written by machines.
Right.
Very simple, short articles. So a sports story about, let's just say the Yankees and the Red Sox played yesterday. It writes those things. It does it with stock reports. And I think that it will start to happen with other things slowly, but eventually the speed with which technology changes is going to be much more rapid.
There's a reason, though, why Jennifer Lawrence gets paid $25 million a film. What about movie stars? You've written that Hollywood is dying. Do you think that AI is playing a role in that demise? And could it mean the end of the movie star?
Well, I think Hollywood is dying because of its own stupidity, to be quite frank. I think that they don't allow creativity anymore. 10, 20 years ago, people would come up with a movie idea and then they would make the movie and come out on a certain date.
Yeah.
Now, all these big production companies say, we need a movie for January 24th, and then they work backwards to create one. And so what I think is going to happen in the future is that actors are not going to be needed in the same way that they are today. There were 2 people in the last Star Wars that were not real actors. They were computer-generated versions of that. So what if you could do that with everyone?
Do you think in the future Jennifer Lawrence could just license out her kind of 3D image to a production company rather than ever appear on set?
Without a question in my mind, that is going to happen. There will be worlds where she still acts in movies, but I think that there will be another world where you are watching films with Jennifer Lawrence, or even people who have passed away, maybe Marilyn Monroe or something like that, and it's all computer generated and done by artificial intelligence.
How close are we to those worlds now, technically speaking? Are there audio and video editing systems in existence now that show us what the future might look like in 10 years?
Well, we're not close, but we are close. And so Adobe, for example, who makes Adobe Photoshop, has been working on a version of Photoshop for audio. And they did a demonstration last year where they showed you could take 10 minutes of audio from someone, 10 to 20 minutes of audio, you put it into this machine, and then you can type words, and it will speak them in a way that you literally cannot tell that that person did not say those things.
Right.
They're thinking of it for the ad industry.
Okay.
But of course, the way we imagine any technology is used is never the way it's actually used. I wrote an article for Vanity Fair last year which got a lot of buzz about the future of fake news. And what I was looking at was the fact that in the next 2018, 2020 elections in the U.S., you're going to have not just fake news articles, but you're going to have fake videos of, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump talking that are going to be created on computer-generated technologies, or fake audio from fake radio transcripts that never happened. And those things exist today. And I think that the speed with which the thing can happen is around the corner at some point.
We started this conversation, Nick, by talking about Hollywood, and you said that it isn't ready for the disruption that's coming. Do you think our political systems are ready for what you just described?
I don't think that our political systems are ready for what I just described, but I do think there are certain people in the world who are aware that they should be. You look at Vladimir Putin, who just a couple of weeks ago put out probably the most honest thing I think I've ever heard him say, which was whoever controls artificial intelligence in the future controls the world. And the reason he knows that is because once you control that, you can control anything.
Nick Bilton, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Nick Bilton is a senior correspondent for Vanity Fair. AI has the potential to radically transform nearly every facet of daily life. And Dr. Yuval Harari says it's time to decide what kind of society we want to build.
Some people envision a wonderful situation in which all the dreary jobs are taken care of by the machines and humans are supported through some kind of universal basic income scheme. And then there are, of course, the more dystopian scenarios in which humankind is split into a tiny, all-powerful elite and the vast underclass whose life is totally at the mercy of the elite.
Next week on our final episode of Automate This, we chart the possibilities of a world without work and what's at stake if we get it wrong.
If we don't take decisions, the free market will take the decisions on our behalf. And I don't trust the free market to make the best decisions for humankind.
Yuval Harari, author of Homo Deus, on how AI will transform society for better or for worse. That's coming up next week on Day 6. And if you're concerned about the future of your job, we want to hear about it. Subscribe to the WorkShift newsletter for the chance to share your story with the nation. Head to cbc.ca/workshift to find out how.